Hi, I'm Susan, and welcome to Tea and Games. The tea today is Builders. My husband made the tea. Welcome to new subscribers. If you are new here, I'm Susan. My husband Robert and I are casual weekend board gamers. I make these little videos just to talk about what we're playing. Usually, though, occasionally I will wander off into other game-related stuff. My husband Robert doesn't choose to do video kind of things, so that's okay. It's been a while since I've actually talked about what we played. It's been a couple of weeks, and boy, have we played some stuff. Well, the Scrabble game is finished, but a lot of stuff has been happening. You know how it goes, stuff. So we just haven't cleared off the board and started over again. For those of you who have wondered about the Scrabble board behind me, what we do is we do one letter a day, usually in the morning. And that way we played a dozen games last year. We could have probably done 13 if we had been more diligent about cleaning off and starting another game over again. So we finished the Scrabble game, and I also did get Fuji Flush to a family get-together for the family to play it, because that was why I got the game, is because I thought they would really like it. Yeah, that totally bombed out. Everybody was just wildly unenthusiastic about it, and and I had a hard time getting them to understand the rules and how to play the game, and it was just, they were very confused for most of the game, and it just did not work out at all. So that whole Fuji Flush is a lot of fun when you got a bunch of people and you're putting cards down and all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, I kind of think you need to get people who are into Fuji Flush for that to really work. So yeah, that didn't work out so well, but I'm hoping that we may still nevertheless have a good game of Fuji Flush with somebody else. To be honest, we played it with 4, and I felt like that 4 was not an optimal number, just setting aside their kind of unenthusiasm and confusion about rules. But I feel like 4 is not an optimal number for that. I feel like you need a little bit more players, because some of the lower numbers you couldn't really stack up to do anything to add up against the higher numbers. So that's something to keep in mind if your usual game group is around 4. So yeah, I want to try that again with somebody else. We also played Here to Slay, which is my niece's favorite game, and I did much better than usual on that. I came within 1 card of winning. Of course, there were like 3 out of 4 of us had within 1 card of winning, but my niece won. Of course she won. It's her favorite game. We got in another play of the winter edition of Carcassonne. As you may have noticed, from the bright sun pouring in the window, we are having unseasonably warm weather here. Spring has sprung. I don't know if it will remain sprung, but it's warm here. Anyhow, so that may be our last play of the winter edition until fall, say, late fall. And we've gotten 13 plays of the winter edition in. And I won the game that we played a couple of weeks ago. So our score between Robert and I is 7 wins to 6, my favor. Though that could tip before the end of the year, because for some reason he is better with the winter edition than the base game regular Carcassonne, which we also got a few plays in, some with expansions, some without. It's just, this past week has been really a rough week for both of us for various reasons. And we just kind of didn't want to think, and we wanted the game to be fairly short. So we only played with, when we played the regular game, we only played with the River and the Abbot. No other expansions rolled in, because when you roll in expansions, not only does it add a level of complexity because you have other people to figure out and more complex situations on the board, you also have more tiles. So, I mean, if you roll in a whole bunch of expansions, then a quick, simple game of Carcassonne not only becomes less simple, it also becomes less quick. So, yeah, we did some with, I think, the Abbey and Mayor expansion. We like that because the Abbey will fill holes, though we didn't have any holes, I think, in that game. And it will do some other interesting things. I talk about that in one of my other videos. And we played because bad things have been happening around here. It's just been kind of stressful. Though some good stuff has happened too. Some really good stuff has happened too. So it's been kind of a wild ride around here lately. We also played some simple games because that's what you really need to do when you want a game, because it's going to be fun and make you all happy. We played Spots, which is one of those games that I got specifically for times when we want to play a game, but we really don't feel like playing the game because we're feeling kind of wrecked. And Spots fills that slot nicely. It is not totally luck given. There's a little bit of strategic thinking that you can work in there, but at the same time, it's not going to strain your brain. If you're just totally out of spoons or something, Spots could be an option for you. We also played Village Rails, which is one that we like, this little train game. We like it a lot. It is a small train game. It does take up a little bit of table space though, because you've got to lay out several track cards and then lay out some trip cards. It plays okay at 2, but every now and then we'll get a game where we'll get stuck on the first trip card, just adding money to it and going deeper into the pile because it's not one either one of us could use or particularly want to use. So I think that if we played with more players, that the trip cards, there wouldn't be any instances where the trip cards would get stuck, because there would always be something somebody in the group wanted. But yeah, we like this. It's like a little pattern matching. If you like tile laying, even though these are technically cards, if you like tile laying, this could be a very satisfying game for you, because you're matching up the tiles. You've got different types of landscape. You're trying to fulfill certain objectives. You get money for completed trips. With your trip ticket, you fulfill more objectives. We also played Savannah Park, which Savannah Park is really easy. It's easy to teach, easy to learn. I would say Village Rails is also a family weight game, as is Spots. Savannah Park is solidly a family weight game. Easy teach, easy learn, and it plays fast because it's almost entirely simultaneous action. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much just simultaneous action, because people set up their boards simultaneously, and then one person calls out an animal and everybody moves that animal in the herd, trying to make herds on the board, and it is tricky. If you like puzzly games where you've got to move things around and try to like optimize stuff, and you may not have a slot here, but you've got to make a slot before you can fill it. It's very puzzly and tricky, moving the tiles around. It's not so much a tile laying game as a tile moving game, but it's like super simple in terms of rules. If you want something rules light but kind of thinky, but not like so like devastatingly hard to learn or whatever. I mean, I think you can have fun with this as a family group, even if you're not good at it. Because the table talk, we're going like, and there go the antelopes. I have totally messed up the antelopes again. And oh my gosh, I've isolated the zebra over here, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to connect him. What have I done? You know, I mean, we're just chatting about the emerging disasters on our player boards. And then like after the person calls out an animal and everybody moves it, then the next person calls out an animal and everybody moves that animal. And it's like groups of animals, like antelope waterhole, or zebra, giraffe, rhino, or something like that. And those I said zebra, giraffe, rhino because there are some tiles that have more than one type of animal on the tile. And then sometimes it's like, we'll go double elephant. So yeah, it's a fun game. It's kind of on the light side, but it's got, I don't know, it's just super satisfying. So we played that because it's kind of a feel-good game, even if oh man, that zebra did not get scored at all. I mean, it didn't. So those were the kind of light games that we were playing. And also, whoa, what did I do here? Also, I got Spaceshipped, which is a solo button shy game. I have kind of kind of a mixed relationship with solo games. I'm not much of a solo gamer. And depending upon the mood I'm in, if you ask me, I might say, no, I am not a solo gamer at all. Because there are some times where I just don't play solo, like ever. And then I will go through periods of times where I'll go like, yeah, I could get that. I could do that. Solo is just not my preferred way to go. But Spaceships is like a spaceship like trading game. It's a button shy game, wallet-sized game, 18 cards, and the card flow. I like the card flow in this game. You have your basic money and ship and cargo space for the ship, and you can hire crew or upgrade your ship. That's one little row of cards. Or you can buy cards off the resource load, put it into your cargo, and then sell it, hopefully for a profit later, because your whole idea is to buy these gem type things, Xeno crystals, and you need to buy 2 of them to win the game. The downside is that there is an enemy card over there, and if the Xeno crystals cycle off of that resource row, then the enemy starts picking up Xeno crystals, and you rotate the enemy card to show he's got like 1, 2, 3, 4 tries, and then he picks things up, and you flip the card over, so you still have a few more tries to get past the enemy. But yeah, I won one that was a real squeaker. I mean, I was just totally it's like my shields were down to nothing. I mean, I was just right there hanging by my fingernails, and I ended up with only 2 maker credits to spare. But it is winnable, especially if you play it correctly. The first couple of games, I did not play it correctly. When it said lose a resource, or when I sold a resource, I took the cards out of the game instead of putting them back to the beginning of the resource row. Yeah, I appreciate the people in the button shy, the button shy people who corrected me on that, because, I mean, you can make a game implode. I mean, just spectacularly implode if you start pulling cards out of the game. And there is a card that has you like reshuffle stuff. So that was when I brought the cards I had taken out back in. But even so, oh wow, those were like some really horrific games when I wasn't playing it correctly. But it is a nifty little card game. And there's going to be a fantasy version of it. I think it's called Fantasy Form, something like that. That will be coming to Kickstarter next month in March, I think. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but keep an eye out on Kickstarter for a button shy thing for Fantasy Form. If the basic card flow of Spaceship looks like something that you would like, because what you do is it's like you do the first thing here and the second thing on that card, and then you go to the market, and then you cycle the cards. This one gets flipped to be an upgrade or crew, and then that goes up there to be a resource. And so the cards move around from different sections, and it also means you can plan ahead very nicely because you see what's coming. Well, you can't plan for like those orbital encounters, because you won't know what those are until they're flipped over, unless you know the cards really well. I'm not to that point yet. But I enjoyed that a lot. It is solo, and Fantasy Form is as I understand it, it's like kind of, they've streamlined some of the rules, and it's going to be a fantasy-themed version of that. We got Sea Salt and Paper Extra Salt. And you're saying that does not look like the Sea Salt and Paper box. And you are right. Because... And I usually have the box. I use this deck box. I usually have it with that card up on the top, so it kind of looks like the game. But we got the extra salt. We got the extra salt Sadian expansion for it, and it won't fit in the box, because if you'll recall, the Sea Salt and Paper little card box, it's filled pretty much up to the top. So I've got a deck box for this. This has become one of our grab and go games that sit right there at the end of the dining room table, like right before you go out through the garage door, and I can just grab a game, drop it into my purse, and take it with me anywhere. The expansion has a few more reference cards. Not that you can add any more players, they just give you more information because you've got some new cards here. They have some base card details games here for that, and they also have reference cards. Like the color distribution will remain the same with the expansion, but you'll notice here the numbers are slightly different because you'll have an extra card or two in certain colors or whatever. But the new cards you have, and I've got one example of each pulled out of the deck here, is you will have a starfish card. And the starfish card means that when you lay down a duo, you can add the starfish card and lay down, and this will go with that duo, and you will get 3 points off of it. So that is a point multiplier in some ways. Also, the crabs get some love here because the point multiplier cards, there are cards in the base deck for 1 point per boat and 1 point per fish, or 1 point per penguin or anchor or something like that. But the crab cards did not have that card in the deck, and they do now with this expansion. And we have the jellyfish card. There are 2 jellyfish cards in the deck. The distribution of the new cards is there are 3 of the sea stars and there are 2 of the jellyfish. And there's that one card that will give you 1 point per crab. And there's a seahorse and a lobster, which I'll get to in a minute. The jellyfish can be paired with a swimmer. It gives you something else to pair with a swimmer besides a shark. Shark and swimmer means you can steal a card for somebody else. I feel like this is slightly less mean because when you pair the jellyfish with the swimmer, and I'm going blank. So, yes, jellyfish and swimmer. The other players that are playing on their next turn, they only get to draw 1 card. And they can't play anything down, and they can't end the game or the round or whatever. So they can't end the game or the round, and they can't play anything down, and they can just draw 1 card. So it's the jellyfish swimmer is handy in terms of limiting your opponents until you can get your stuff together and do something. And it does give you something else to do with the swimmer cards besides the shark. The lobster card pairs with a crab card. If you put down the lobster crab duo as a pair, oh, this is nifty. You get to draw 5 cards off the top of the deck and keep 1. So it's a nice little fishing trip if you're trying to pick up that 4th mermaid. Ha ha ha. Yeah, and the seahorse card, oh, this is super useful. You know those shell cards and octopus cards and things like that where you need to have at least 2 of them or you score nothing. You know, and sometimes you've got one you're going like, and I'm going like, well, I could score really well if I just had 1 more of them or something. This acts as a wild card for those collector cards. You can... with the seahorse card, you can add it to your clam card or cards or jellyfish card or cards or, octopus cards. You can add it to them and it will act as one of those. It's kind of wild that way. Ooh, wild things. And I'm going to put all this stuff back here. Oh, maybe not just quite yet. Let me just slide this over here. And... that was sea salt and paper. We have been playing the heck out of it. Well, besides just playing the heck out of sea salt and paper, now that we've got extra salt, we like the expansion a lot. We like what the new cards do. It doesn't unbalance the game at all. And it just gives you a few more extra things that you can use strategically. And we just rolled it in with the base game, and we are leaving it rolled in with the base game. It comes in like a little paper packet. So, yeah, you're going to have to find some place to put it because it's not like it comes in some kind of little expansion, something or other that you can keep it in, and it won't fit in the box. So, you're going to need a deck box. That would be my recommendation. So much for the small things. Oh, and as I said, there's 1 seahorse and 1 lobster card in there. Now we get to the big thing. Remember I mentioned that we were having kind of a bad week? Yeah, the bad week kind of went into Saturday, but I was determined. Tang Garden has been on our unplayed game shelf for years now. It was one of those early games that I got. I thought we would like it because it is beautiful, spectacular table presence, and it has tile laying, which some of those early games we got, we really loved tile laying. So I got Tang Garden, and then we just didn't get around to playing it. It kind of got overtaken by other games, and it sat on the unplayed game shelf for years. So last fall, I cracked it open and decided we're going to play this sucker. And I got it out, and it needs assembly. Keep this in mind. This is not one of those kind of games that you can buy it, crack open the box, drop it on the table, and just start playing. It needs some assembly. It has some nifty stuff in that the player boards, they're not double layered, but see, they've got inserts for your cubes, which is really nice. It will play up to 4, but you need to prep things. It comes with minis of the figures, and you've got to look at the cards for all of the different people, and look at the cards and try to match them to the minis, and then put on the appropriately colored base. Some of them fell. The lid came off and they started falling over. And that's another thing. These little molded areas here, they're molded to fit specific shapes. So, you know, you've got to like make sure you put them back, and you're trying to fiddle around to make them fit into various shapes. And the colors, I don't know if you can see here, but the colors on the bases, some of the colors are very close to each other in color. If you have trouble with colors, you may have trouble with this. I had trouble matching like the way the figures look, because they're called minis for a reason. They are very mini. So I'm like looking at the cards and going, okay, his arm is here, but he's like, and then his position, but no, he's holding this. What is that one holding again? So yeah, that was a little bit fiddly, but I think I got everything lined up correctly. But you also have to, let me show you what the insert looks like here. Yeah. You also have to assemble pagodas. Let me see if I can find a non-shattering pagoda here to pick up. Yeah, they're all kind of falling apart. Okay, this pagoda, you punch 3 sides, and you've got a plastic base and a plastic top, and you put the 3 sides into the top. It's open on one side because you can put a little mini in there to score stuff. It is a position for a figure that you can use. This particular one, the sides and base and top, and you can take the top off if you really want to see it better. They hold together pretty well. That one held together pretty well, and you can handle it. But see, this one, I just touched it and it went to pieces. Like, not only did the top come off, but yeah, the top only came off on this one. But there's one in there where the pieces that fit into the base are so loose that if you touch it at all, the whole thing just goes whoop, like a house of cards going down. So I think I'm eventually going to end up gluing these things. There is a nice spot for these pagoda things. You may have seen them lined up, and oh, this is the shattered one. See, there's a nice spot in there to line up all of the pagodas. And by the way, it does not tell you which you put on the top and which you put on the bottom. And I just kind of arbitrarily, whoa, the bottom stayed in there. I just kind of arbitrarily decided that I would put the darker shaded at the bottom and the lighter shaded pagodas, the lighter shaded part of the pagoda at the top with the little thingies there. And so you've got to assemble you've got to punch your pagodas, and you've got to assemble your pagoda. And I'm not going to do that on camera. It's just too fiddly. So if you don't like things that are fiddly, be warned that there is a tiny bit of a fiddle factor on that. And then there are the trees. The trees annoyed me a little bit because, and I have taken this thing out and put it back in a number of times, but I cannot find a way to put the 3D trees fully assembled into the box. Now, I have 2 other games with 3D trees, one of them with 3-dimensional trees that are bigger than these, and yet they fit into the game box fully assembled. But I cannot find any way to make that work for this game. If you know how to do it, point me to some video or picture that tells me where they go and how to do that, because otherwise I'm just stacking them into various little areas, and then when you set the game up, you have to assemble all of the trees and take them apart again. These are the large landscape tiles here, and they have little symbols on them, and those symbols gave us fits because nowhere in the book does it tell you what those symbols are. Though when we watch Monique and Naveen's teach and playthrough, they refer to them as like sun and moon and dragon and village and temples and pagodas and things like that. And I'm going like, how do they know this? Because we just couldn't find that. And there are small landscape tiles that also have symbols on them. And these symbols are what your figures on the board can score off of, depending upon how they're positioned in relation to the symbols. They also score off of the tiles that are laid on the landscape. But this kind of gave us fits, and because we couldn't tell what we're looking at. The symbols are very tiny. Essentially, they did a detailed line drawing and then shrunk it down to a size smaller than a thumbnail. And so we could kind of match them up if we look closely, but we couldn't really. And then on the second day, I had the epiphany that the little rings, the colored rings around them, matched the minis. So if you can figure out which color mini goes with which card and which card and mini go with that, then you can match it up to this and know what character scores off of that. So there is a tiny little bit of fiddliness in this, and the icons are not very good. The rule book is, there are no player aids. None. There's no like list of icons or this is what you do on your turn cards or player aids, because you have 2 things you can do on your turn and then some optional things. So yeah, none of that. You just have to know what you're doing, because, or look it up in the rule book, because there are no player aids, which I think was a mistake. There are coins, there are some small tiny cardboard decorations you can put on there, and some lantern tokens which will give you like extra actions and abilities. But what I really wanted to show you was how pretty this looks. And now I've got the table so cluttered, I don't know if I can do it. Let me set this over here. Heave my notebook out of the way, not knock over my tea. But the board, before you build your Tang Garden, the board is very black and white. There are slots here that you stand the small and large landscapes upright in. Monique and Naveen, in their video, because they were using an overhead camera, they laid them down flat. Like, instead of sending them upright like this, they laid them down flat on the side so that the overhead camera could show the viewer what they're doing. And honestly, after playing with it with them upright, I would recommend laying them down flat on the side, because these little tiny, the small landscape tokens go on the board in front of the larger ones like this. And these slots are half an inch, no, 3/4 of an inch or an inch apart. So, and this is the bigger one that goes in back. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it like this, which means that all I'm seeing is the large landscape token. So I'm going like, wait, what are the icons on the small one again? Because I can't see the icons on the small one from my position behind the larger one. So yeah, lay them down flat. You can see what you're doing a lot better. But yeah, Saturday, it was rough. We were getting oriented. We're going like, okay, on this, do we move up? Do we move up a cube, or do we get a coin? No, we get a coin for this and a cube for that. And then we move the cube here. But this character will get a coin and move a cube if they do that. And so it just took us a little while to get oriented. And here's the thing. Saturday morning was bad. And we were tired. And by the time Saturday afternoon rolled around, it was like we wanted to play a game because we wanted to have some fun and just basically just kind of go like, yeah, let's be kids. Let's play a game. Let's not do any more adulting crap. So, yeah, and I was determined to get this off the unplayed game shelf. So I said, we're going to play Tang Garden. It's beautiful. And we muddled along for a while, and we're just like going, ah. And I'm going like, oh God. And I'm saying, we're probably not going to play this game like over and over and over again. We're just going to, like a lot of our larger games, pull it out every now and then. And it's like, if we have to relearn this thing every time we play it, I just don't know if it's worth keeping it. But we left it laid out Saturday. We just decided we were just too tired and too befuddled to get ourselves oriented or to enjoy what we were doing. So we just left it out, walked away, and decided to hit it Sunday morning. And that worked out okay. Oh, and by the way, this is your starting tile, which goes right in the center of the board. Can you see that? No, you cannot. Yeah, if I pull it out this way, you can. And we just decided, yeah, Saturday morning we thought, we'll give it a shot. Where are my other tiles? Oh, they're underneath the trees. The deconstructed trees. You've got all of these different kinds of landscape tiles here, which I can't get out because I also stuck trees in there. And they're got colors on one side, and that determines the type of landscape they are. I'm going to link Monique and Naveen's video down below, but you've got stone tiles and water tiles and greenery tiles. You've got some tiles that are a mixture of different things, and it's essentially tile matching, you know. You match, but there are footpaths. And I mean, you need a well-lighted room because you can't really see the footpaths on Monique and Naveen's video. We could see them here. Robert had trouble seeing some of the footpaths. So you can match up footpaths and get coins for that. And this has some water here. Oh, that's a footpath. Water goes there. There are little tokens that go around the central area, and when you cover one of those areas, you pick up the token, and that's what allows you to place these other landscape things. But you're building a Tang Garden, and you have decorations that you can put on the garden, like the pagodas. There are also bridges in here somewhere. I don't remember where I put the bridges. I think the bridges are underneath something in the insert. But when we played it Sunday, it started to click. We started to get the hang of it. We started to get the feel of it. The board started filling out, and it looked really beautiful. And we were starting to really enjoy ourselves. If you had asked us Saturday whether or not this game was one we were going to keep, we would say no, because I can't see us playing it that often, and we would have to relearn it every time we played it, and it just feels like a little too fiddly and frustrating for that. But Sunday, when we were fresh, everything clicked. And it all came together beautifully. And we're like moving up our player boards, and we're laying out things, and we're getting those decorations, and we're placing our figures and going, yes, and I know I can score off of that. That's going to be great. And it was a totally different experience. I mean, by the time we finished the game on Sunday, and this was not our second game, remember, this was the continuation of the game we started on Saturday. But by the time we finished the game on Sunday, we were going like, yeah, this game is a keeper. We're definitely keeping this one. So yeah, it is enjoyable and it is beautiful. There are fiddly bits of it, and I would not call this a family weight game because I feel like it is not rules light enough to be a family weight game. And some of the stuff you score off of, I think, is maybe just a little bit esoteric for the super casual board gamer. I mean, I'm a casual board gamer, but because you've got to place the figures so that it's like looking out. Some of the figures need to be placed so that they are facing like pagodas and bridges, and or they score off of them, or they need to be facing dragons on the large landscape. And there are the Empress and the Emperor, they can't be placed near each other, so you can mess with other people by placing it, but there is a lantern action that will allow you to move or turn a figure that's already been placed, in case you start seeing those landscapes, another area of landscape, fill up with the stuff that your figure can score more off of if they're looking that way, so you can turn them by using lantern. So, which is one of those optional actions. We did not use lanterns too much. Like I said, there's just, it's not rules light. There are like lantern actions, and then there's the influence a character action, and it's all these different optional actions, and you've got to place things so that they're looking certain directions. So, I mean, it's kind of thinky, but it's very enjoyable in a thinky kind of way. And it's so pretty, just so very pretty, because you've got trees. I think this is the willow tree here, kind of a golden willow thing here. You've got trees, you got red, you've got pink, yellow, green, and blue trees, three-dimensional trees that you can put on there. You've got bridges that you can place in certain areas for water tokens. Bridges and pagodas can both have figures put on them, so if you don't have tiles that have the special symbol and you want to put out a figure, the decorations also have those tiles. Let me see, this one here is already discombobulated, so I can show you here. On the base, I don't know if you can see it now that I said that, on the floor of this pagoda, there's a little symbol, which is the symbol where you can put a figure on it, and the bridges have the same symbol stamped on them, teeny tiny little bridges. So this is just such a lovely game, and it's kind of conceptually beautiful. I think that if you know how to play it really well, it could be like super, super competitive. But I also think that there's kind of a chill aspect to it because you're just building a garden. See, I'm wearing my garden t-shirt today. So, I mean, I feel like there's kind of a chill aspect to it because that whole beauty and building a garden thing, but it can be like super competitive where you place your people. And getting tiles and filling out certain things and picking up certain landscapes and putting them where you want. It plays well at 2. I will say that it plays well at 2. Let me put that pagoda back in there since that's the one that doesn't fall apart. And this one's holding together pretty well, so I'll put that in there now. We enjoyed it. We are keeping this game. We will play it again. I'm not sure when because I'm still trying to get games off the unplayed game shelf. And I don't have that many if you don't count some. See, that's the trick to whittling down your unplayed game shelf is there are certain categories of unplayed games that you just don't count them. We have one legacy game, which we have not played. We have one campaign game, which is still in shrink from 4 years ago. So those two I don't count because we cannot put those on the table and have the whole game played like in one sitting on any given Saturday or Sunday. So those two don't count. We also have several games that need more than 2 players, which I got to play with family or friends or because they're really good games, and it's just a shame that we usually play at 2, which means we can't play them very often, but they're games that I just kind of feel like should be in our collection because they're really fun. And I know that they will be fun if I can get enough people together to play them. A large number of them are party games. Or they just need a minimum of 3. So those don't count. So legacy games don't count, campaign games don't count, games that cannot be played at 2, because most of the time when we play on the weekends, there are a few exceptions, it's 2 of us. So For my unplayed games list, what I'm really looking at are games that the two of us could play any weekend and get the game completely played. And of those, until this past weekend, there were 5 of them. And now there are 4. So, I do like these nifty little player boards I've got here. 4. Admittedly, some are going to be kind of tough. At least one I think is going to be kind of hard to learn. But 4 games. My idea, what I'm doing right now, and I may not make it, but my idea right now is not to buy any new games until I play those 4 remaining games that can be played at 2-player. It's going to take me a while to learn a couple of them, so I'm not sure. I may break down and buy a new game. But you see, with new games, we buy the new games as we get them. So that's how we've whittled down the unplayed games list, is we play new games as we get them in, and then we throw in some unplayed games every now and then. Because the unplayed game shelf had just kind of stacked up over the years. It's like, we just got a few too many games all at once or something and just didn't get to it. This looks like a mess here on the table, but it's a glorious mess because it's a board game mess. This is not the channel to learn how to play games. This is the channel just to see games, see what we're playing, and kind of hear what I thought of them, first impressions. There are good channels for teaching games. I watch how to play videos from Watch It Played, Before You Play, and then if the game that I'm looking for does not have a how to play video from Watch It Played or Before You Play, then I'll usually pick up Meeple University's video for how to play, if they have one. Every now and then I pick up a game and there's like none of my top 3 go-tos for how to play videos for board games have how to play for that game. I should probably just kind of be a little bit more, buy games that have videos. And I do look at videos. I research games. I look at videos on how to play games and playthroughs and stuff because I want to make a good choice. But yeah, I should probably maybe stick with ones that have videos from my favorite content creators, but sometimes you just really want a game and you find other playthrough videos for it and you're going like, yes, please. But that's what's going on with us right now. There's just like a whole bunch of stuff going on. And also it's spring and it started to warm up, so I'm doing even more gardening stuff, like in a real backyard garden, like planting. I've got flower seeds, vegetable seeds, seeds. It's just like, and I'm planting little things indoors and hoping that the weather holds enough for me to plant them out. So, spring is kind of a busy time for gardening, and then there's other stuff happening. Ugh. So, yeah, we just kind of have to do adulting sometimes. We try not to do adulting on weekends if we possibly can because we want to have fun on weekends. So we will try to squeeze in as much have-to-do stuff during the week as we possibly can so that we can have more fun on the weekend. But sometimes it does not always work out that way. Anyhow, I've enjoyed sitting around the table chatting with you. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Let me know if you've played Tang Garden and what your thoughts on it are. I think that the production quality is really high. I think that they probably could have done a little bit better on icons, player aids, things like that. But I do think it's a good game. And gosh, it just really cannot be beat for table presence. This would be in the top tier for table presence, particularly when you get that board filled out with stuff. But yeah, let me know what you think about Tang Garden and anything else that you want to talk about. I will chat with you in comments here. I hang out on the BG Hub on Discord. So if you're on Discord and if you're on BG Hub, you can look for me there. But it's been fun. We are having fun playing games on the table. And I really would not recommend learning a new game and putting it on the table when you're tired and out of sorts. And it's not like I didn't know that. But I really wanted to get it off the until played game shelves and onto my table. So I hope you have a good time, and I will see you next time round the table. Bye, y'all.